You know what I love the most? I love when players, former players, or somebody that said something bad about a Knick player, or specifically in this case, Jalen Brunson, has to walk what they said back, given the play of Jalen Brunson. And that's exactly what's happened here with Kenny Smith, TNT analyst and somebody who has criticized the Knicks over the last few weeks, basically saying that when the Knicks take the court, they never have the best player on the floor. Well, fast forward to today, he's now changing his tune because of the great play of Jalen Brunson. We're going to break down this and so much more today. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button now and make sure you have notifications turned on so you don't miss a second of the new content. And now, let's get started. Kenny Smith actually walked back on his Jalen Brunson criticism that he was spouting at the mouth basically a few months ago when he stated when the Knicks take the floor, their stars are never the best players on the court when they're playing another team. Fast forward to today, he was recently on the Stephen A. Smith show, and on that show, he was talking about the New York Knicks, Jalen Brunson, and his impact. And my, oh my, does he sound very different with regards to Brunson and how he's speaking about him right now. Roll that clip.
At the beginning of the year, I made a comment. I said, I don't know if the Knicks could win the Eastern Conference or be in it because they always walk on the floor and having the second best player.
Right.
And I was like, you play Milwaukee, they got the second best. You play Philadelphia,
True.
They had the second best. Play Boston.
True.
But Brunson has narrowed the gap so much to being the second. Right. You might be the best player, but I'm
right
not
there.
far behind you.
He's right there.
And so now I have talented guys behind me, which surpasses what you might have. Mm-hmm. So now that's the difference. Is Jalen Brunson? We talk about MVP candidate.
Yes,
he's in the top five.
He's there.
He's in the top five of being there. He's just shortened the gap. Maybe he's not Embiid. Maybe he's not Giannis.
Right.
But when he plays, he makes winning plays that separates the gap.
Isn't it crazy how that works? He went from not the best player on the floor against any other team to maybe top 5 in MVP voting? That's a really big leap from where you were, Kenny. Interesting how that happens. Could it be because you saw what he's been doing with the New York Knicks, how he's been destroying your favorite teams? And you're right, he's not Giannis, he's not Luka, he's not those type of guys. But you know who he is? He's Jalen Brunson. And the New York Knicks fan base will take him as is. He is an all-star for the New York Knicks. First time in his career with the Knicks, just like Julius Randle. You know how the Knicks do it. We like it homegrown over here. And this is how we like to act and treat our stars. When we're from New York, we like to recognize, help, and support. What we don't do is criticize, hate, and hate even more. And then after the team and the players you criticize not only outperform what you thought they were going to do, but exceed expectations, making this Knicks team look like a contender in the Eastern Conference. Because whether you want to say it or not, whether you want to agree to this or not, the Knicks currently as constructed right now on paper are a contender in the Eastern Conference, might be a contender for the NBA Finals. If they make another move or two, really one more major move to get that other star on this roster, which they have all of the assets available to do. They have the players necessary to make that move happen as well, too. So all they're waiting for right now is for that star that they coveted to become available so they can go out and trade for him. But until then, they don't really have to do anything. They don't have to make a move. They don't really even have to sign anybody else because the roster that they have right now, as presently constructed, will absolutely make noise and cause some damage in the playoffs. And I think if the odds favor the Knicks properly here and they work themselves into getting a top seed in the Eastern Conference, they might be lucky enough to cash their ticket all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. And once you get there, who knows what's going to happen? And I hope that happens because I want to see Kenny Smith have to call that game, have to talk about the Knicks more, and have to walk back on criticism more. Now, listen. We're all wrong at some point in time. Nobody has a crystal ball. We're never going to be right 100% of the time. I understand that. And if you're wrong, admit to it. Kenny Smith was basically doing that here. He was stating he was wrong. But did you notice how he ended that clip? He still stated, even though he's not as good as Luka, as good as Giannis, as those guys, he's still good enough that he can close the gap because of the player that he is and he's turning into. And also, the other players on his roster help him close that gap too. So what you're basically telling me, Kenny, is he's a great ball player and he's a great teammate. And what you're saying is those other players are individually great players, but maybe not necessarily great team players. You may not have meant it that way, but guess what? That's how it sounds. Oh, so you're saying that sometimes when you criticize a player and say something about his team, it could be taken out of context? Wow, no joke. Kenny, let me give you some tips here. Even though you probably don't need no tips from me, you've been doing this for a while, but you've been catching a lot of heat from the New York Knicks, Knicks fans, and the fan base in general. So let me help you in this regard. You're a native New Yorker. Number one, act like it. Number two, when the Knicks are doing good, praise them. When they're doing bad, talk about some of the reasons they're doing bad, but also some of the things they can do to help themselves get better. You know, like you do for some of the other teams around the league. You just don't do for the Knicks for whatever the reason may be. I don't know if you're salty about the head coaching job, not getting that gig, not being part of the front office, whatever it is in your body. Do me a favor. Take the hate out of your soul. Take it out. Take the hate out of your soul, right? You following me? And start fresh. Start anew. And make sure when you talk about the Knicks and Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, how special this team is this season, what we're going to be doing for season after season after season moving forward, when you talk about that, put some respect on what you're talking about. Because this Knicks team is doing things that nobody expected when we started this season. I thought they were going to be good because I believe in Jalen Brunson, and to an extent, I believed in Julius Randle. Now, looking at what we're seeing right now, they've made me into believers that they can take it all. And if you're not there with me, don't worry, give it time. This Knicks team is going to convince you just as it's convinced me and a lot of other Knicks fans over the course of this season already why they can be trusted and why come the playoffs, they are going to be one of the most dangerous teams that is available to face. And that's why a lot of people right now are going to be watching their seedings, because I'll tell you right now, a matchup in the first round against the New York Knicks is a matchup you do not want. Everybody recognizes that. Stephen A. Smith recognizes that. Kenny Smith, he now recognizes that. It seems like other people around the league are starting to understand now what the New York Knicks are about, who they are, their identity this season. Jalen Brunson, the fact that he's knocking on the door of superstardom. We can't ignore these things anymore. We have to acknowledge what it is. The New York Knicks are back. We are relevant again. We are here. We're ready to make a statement. We already are making a statement. We have 2 All-Stars in the All-Star game. Last time that happened was the magical 2013 run. And I think some of that magic and then some is going to rub off on this year, because I see special things for this roster once we get healthy. You realize the starting lineup once we get healthy will be Jalen Brunson, Dante DiVincenzo, OG Anunoby, Julius Randle, and Mitch, followed by the bench with Isaiah Hartenstein, Josh Hart, Bojan Bogdanovic, Alec Burks, Miles McBride. Some of those shooters, mainly almost all of those players who are shooters, are shooting above 40% from 3 this season. Let me give that to you again. Almost all of the shooters that the New York Knicks have are shooting better from 40% from 3 this season. That's what the Knicks have to look forward to once they're healthy. Julius Randle drawing double teams in the paint. Jalen Brunson drawing double teams by the perimeter, by the wing, by the paint, and being able to pass it out, pass it around to the open shooter. And the best part is there's not one open shooter anymore. At least not one open shooter you got to worry about. There are multiple shooters on the New York Knicks you have to worry about. That's in large part thanks to Leon Rose, but it's also thanks to Jalen Brunson. His heroics, what he's meant for this Knicks team, how much he stepped up his game once we needed him to step up his game with all the injuries that we've had. He has done everything that we've needed him to do for this Knicks team. He's excelled, and he's taking on a role that nobody thought he could. Not only being the leader, but being the go-to guy that can get it done. That's why he's knocking on the door of superstardom. That's not just given to you. You have to earn it. Am I alone in the opinion of thinking that Jalen Brunson has absolutely earned it this season? Because if he closes out this season with the Knicks winning better than 50-plus games this year, and we make a deep run this year in the playoffs, you can't say anything else about Jalen Brunson than being one of the best Knicks point guards we have ever seen. And we're saying that, and he's not even finished year 2 yet. That's a statement. Kenny Smith, you're not forgiven. I'm never going to forget, but you can continue to do your thing. I respect the fact that you at least walked it back, given how good Jalen Brunson has been. But next time, watch a few more games before you make that criticism. Because when it was said, myself and a lot of other people included were dogging you out because of it. This Knicks team is real. It's making people change their minds, change their opinions, and in some cases, lose their minds because they're doing things that nobody expected them to do this season. And that is Knicks culture. Doing the unthinkable with hard work and determination. One of the best teams I've seen in my entire life. It's an honor and a privilege to be able to talk about this team on a daily basis. But what about you guys? What do you think about Kenny's quote-unquote apology and walk back of his disrespectful comments to the Knicks and Jalen Brunson that he said a few weeks ago? Let me know in the comments below, guys, because honestly, I would love to hear what you have to say about this. But until next time, Knicks fans, that's going to do it for this episode. Please don't forget to smash that like button, leave a comment below, and of course, guys, please subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Knicks fans. Peace.